everybody, welcome to Facebook Live. Thank you for joining me. And for those of you who are new, this is a format where I just wanted to create a safe space for like-minded people to come together, ask questions all about the work I do, the spiritual world, and mediumship. While I will not be doing private readings over Facebook Live, we will definitely address, everything about readings, and I'm sure a lot of questions that are universal in nature. And so please write in your questions, and we're going to start with a few.
Yeah. So we have Lori, who has lost her son, and I believe it was Deborah, who's also lost her son. So, and then we have Minnie Jo, whose father passed over, and then Bonnie, who lost her husband 9 months ago. So we have several people who are, in that loss mode, and they really want to know, are they okay? Are they at peace? And how are they? Because it's tough for those on the earthly plane feeling left behind.
Right. Okay, so there's a common theme in these questions, and that is, are they okay? I just want to know that they're in a good place, resting in peace, and are they still with me? So let's start with number one. The spirits, are the ones I work with, are happily resting in what we call heaven, or the spiritual world. And it's usually the living that are not settled or at peace, because in this world, in this earth world, it's a much heavier, denser vibration. Unfortunately, for those of us left behind, as survivors, we're struggling with duality. So in this earth school, we're dealing with the positive and negative, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And so it's a lot harder for us because our egos get in the way and we feel separated and alone. And yes, that's an illusion. If you are spiritually aware, it's all about oneness. And when we return to the spirit world, what happens is we go back to this place of oneness where we're all connected. The ego falls away. The mind that creates the limitation and separation goes away. And so we experience nothing but unconditional love and joy and peace. So it's never the spirits I'm worried about. There are cases where spirits, when they're leaving the body, they get stuck in between dimensions. I call those ghosts. But they're not negative. They're just struggling to let go and to release the physical body, cut the silver cord that connects the soul to the body. But at some point they will. And usually that's when they realize it's safe, and they have angels and loved ones in spirit coming and gently coaxing them over to the other side. So in this case, though, with all these women who wrote in, I got their loved ones are good. They're resting in peace. What they want you to know is that they want you to find that same sense of peace and joy again one day. I know it's easier said than done when you've gone through a tremendous loss. Any loss is significant, but especially that of a child or a partner, a spouse. It's really hard to move on. I get that. And what I have heard from spirits is that late at night and early in the morning is the hardest time. And the reason is because you're in your heart more than your head. And when you're in your heart, you're feeling more. But the good news with that is when you're in your heart, you're out of the way, which means it's easier for spirits to connect with you. So what I like to suggest is that when you go to bed at night, pray, cry, whatever you need to do. You don't even have to say it out loud, but from your heart, invite spirit in. Ask them to visit you in your dreams. Ask them to come into your meditation as you're lying there. And then just be open to receive. Because what I always remind you of is you don't need anyone outside of yourself to connect to your loved ones in spirit. They are closer to you. What you need to do is get your energy open and available and up to speed with their energy, which is operating at a much higher frequency in order to receive the energy, to feel them, and to receive the download of messages.
Great. Thank you. So the next question's from Marissa, and she's having this happen to her. Every time she looks at a clock, It's 11 minutes past the hour, and she sees those numbers in other places too. She says, it sounds silly, but I feel like it's some kind of message, and she's just wondering if it means anything. She has a brother who's a guide of hers. Could it be from him?
Yes. So 11 is a pretty common number for people to see, whether it's 9/11, 7/11, 11/11, or 1/11. And what Spirit has shared is that this is a wake-up call, not in a bad way. This is a pay attention. It's like a portal or a gateway that has opened up. So it's you in your own ascension process where you're starting to, on a higher self level, open up to your awareness that you have your own connection to Spirit and to this higher guidance. So what I would do is when you see that, whether it's your brother and or your guides, because I think it's both, is to thank them, acknowledge it, and maybe just ask, what do you want me to know? What do I need to know? And just see what you feel and what visions or any messages you're hearing in your inner voice, in your mind's voice, okay? Because if you ask, then you have to just make space to receive, and they'll talk to you. If nothing else, see it as a little wink that you're on the right track.
Like the winks.
Yes, we love the winks.
So Pamela, who first of all says thank you for doing these, she asked if there are any tricks or ways to decipher messages from guides versus angels versus loved ones. So it kind of just goes into what you just saying.
Yeah, so when I first started doing this work, I was working with the much higher dimension. I call it 5-dimensional and beyond, but it's the higher heavens. And that's coming from angels and archangels and just very enlightened beings of light. And so my messages that would come through to me through automatic writing were very universal, very loving, pretty generic, simple truth. Okay? Then when I started working with my grandma Babe, who passed on, she obviously was one of my guides. For anyone who's followed me, you've read in my books. She definitely was a guide, but she also was a human being at one time. So it was in a lower plane of existence, right? But she was able to give me more detailed earthly messages, like remember the peach pie and, nicknames and just things that I could take back to my dad to get him to validate whether it was real or not. So when you're working with dead people, they're going to remember a lot more details. That's why that's the work I do. I always include one, if not many, of your dead loved ones, because I think it's super important to give you that evidence. So detailed earthly memories they still have that they can prove to you this is real. But I really believe, more importantly, the higher messages, whether it's from them or angels, spirit guides, the higher truths, the more universal truths, such as I love you, I'm proud of you. Remembering a big one that I had in my group reading today, that is measure your success in the amount of joy you have, not in dollars, right? That's a universal truth for all of us. So those are the important messages that if you're starting to do this work, you hear the broader universal, you'll know it's the higher angels and guides.
Great. Our next question comes from Stephanie. And she had a baby who died 6 days after birth at 40 weeks. And her question is, does he get older in the spirit world? And how can he communicate?
So, Stephanie, I'm sorry for your loss, but as you know, it's a physical loss, and the soul made its way into your awareness and for 6 short, sweet days to make its presence known, to let you know this is a being that doesn't have an age. It's an advanced soul, is what I'm getting, like an earth angel, that now is in the non-physical watching over you and your family. So you can see that soul now as an identifiable spirit guide that's watching over you. And when we are in spirit, there's no time and there's no space. It's non-linear. So there's no age. And so you could, in fact, I'm getting this soul consider it 1,000 years old because it's had many lifetimes, very advanced. So you can imagine it however you want. But my sense is it's just see it as an advanced soul who has wisdom to offer you, and you should absolutely include that soul in your prayers every day.
Great. So we have a question from Eric, who's asked questions before, but he would like to know what Spirit take is, and even your own personal notion is, on the subject of being your authentic self. And so his question is really on some of us who are influencers in community or public figures. They like to act a certain way all the time, but obviously they can't live up to everybody's expectations.
Yeah.
So.
Good question, Eric. I love this. And thanks for writing in again. You have the best questions. So here's my take. This is a good one because I'm all about this. I believe in authenticity and keeping it real. I do not believe in spiritual bypass. I am a light worker, as are you, as are many people. But we still have an ego, a human self, and we still have lessons to learn just like everybody else. And so I believe sometimes we are the guinea pigs that walk through certain messy situations, and maybe every day isn't love and light. And it doesn't mean we have to stay in that place or spread that negative energy. What we can do instead is use it as a learning experience to figure out how to transcend it and then teach it, impart that to others. So it's all about being real, and you've seen my work. I am very vocal and transparent, and my life is super messy, but it's beautiful and it's big and it's good. But I use those because if you are at all in tune, which most of us are, and anyone tuning in right now is, you feel truth. So if someone's saying or doing something that's not lining up with what you're sensing from them, feeling, that's not truth and inauthentic. And how can you be a responsible healer if you're holding that conflicting energy, right? So if I were you, I would be real about it. You don't have to air all your dirty laundry, but figure out the pieces that can be used for good. And if that means sometimes stepping out of the limelight and doing your own inner work privately, sometimes that's what we need to do. And then you come back in when you're in a more whole place that you feel like you can show up and serve and help others. Hopefully that helped you.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. This is a short question from Kelly. She asks, if you could have only one crystal, which would you suggest?
That's funny. That's a personal thing. I can't tell you, but mine is kyanite. If people will see me holding it, I don't have it in front of me, but it's the only one you don't have to clear. It clears itself. I've had it, truly, this one piece I have had for almost 20 years. I got it right when I started. But for intuitive work, I would say clear quartz, rose quartz, especially for love and heart chakra energy, and amethyst is a really good one, and lapis. Those are all good for third eye if you're looking to advance your spiritual gifts.
Great. I have a longer one.
Yeah.
So this is from Belinda, and she sometimes feels like she's under attack spiritually to knock her off. And she feels like she's always been brought through, but she's feeling bruised and battered, and sometimes she gets confused, loses her focus. But now she's starting to feel angels and guides because she's praying all the time. But how can she find out who or what around is causing it so she can get rid of it, or is there something she can do to get rid of that?
So what I'm getting for you is that it's real, but you're very much ascending up into the higher planes, and when you get into the fourth dimension, it's kind of the dream plane, the astral plane, and that's where people can have nightmares or they can have these beautiful dreams, right? It depends, because fear still exists there, and you're so open and vulnerable that it feels like you're a sponge, and so you're sponging up energies that dark wants to attack the light. So right when you said you've been praying for angels and guides, that's all it takes. You don't even need to give any thought or energy to the negative. In fact, I don't think we should go into who or what it is, because then you're feeding it. Instead, acknowledge it. It's real. I'm not making this up. Turn your attention away from that and go fully into source, God. Always God first, source, right? Pure love. Then call in your angels and guides and archangels and ask them. I'm getting for you Archangel Metatron for some reason, so look up Metatron. Obviously Archangel Michael, And those would be powerful beings that can assist you. And it feels like the more you do this, the easier and stronger it will become, second nature. So don't shut down out of fear, right? Love is always more powerful than fear. Just surround yourself in that love. Get spiritually dressed every morning, every night.
Thank you. So Monica has, she first of all says, hello and thank you for another Facebook Live. And she has some questions about meditating. So I was wondering, when you're meditating and connecting, are you in constant two-way conversation with your spirits, guides, angels, or do you try and stay quiet and receive, or like a combo of both? So there's that. And then she also wants to know about some foods. Are there like foods that can block us and our intuition to keep us from hearing clearly?
Right. So meditation is not a one-size-fits-all, but for me, in my experience, I am constantly back and forth between my mind, my ego, and my higher self, and my guides, okay? So I wish it were neat and tidy where everything goes away and they talk. It doesn't work that way, and I don't think it works that way for most people. So what will happen is you're attempting to meditate, and then your mind comes in about your to-do list or a big concern you have that you have to deal with at the end of the day, right? And then you go back to seeing or sensing messages from guides, or just sometimes it's nothing, you just feel peaceful, and then the panic or fear comes in, right? So it's really about just sitting with that and accepting the uncomfortable feelings or thoughts until it passes. So the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And it's like they say all the time, it's like watching clouds passing by, acknowledge them, let them go. So don't stay attached to it. The other thing I would say, I feel like I'm supposed to say this, is a lot of times I just use my meditation to raise my energy and connect into this higher vibration. And then when I walk out of meditation an hour later, a day later, that's when I start getting the messages, the signs, the guidance. Okay, so it took meditation to set the intention and align my energy so that later I could receive. So don't get frustrated if you're not getting anything in meditation. Okay? The second thing, foods, again, not a one-size-fits-all. You have to know your body. For some people, for everybody, alcohol and drugs, they don't help. They're depressants, and if you have too much caffeine or a medication that's a stimulant, you're too high vibration, right? You're just kind of like all over the place, and you cannot slow down and just be. When you do this work, you have to be as calm and centered as possible. And so I know for myself, if I have too much caffeine, forget it. It's just cloudy and fuzzy. But I can handle a little, okay? So you have to figure that out for yourself. Cheese, dairy definitely blocks you. It blocks your system. It definitely puts a film over the third eye. I cut dairy out. I have lactose issues, but when I cut it out, I'm telling you, my dreams got clearer. So pay attention to your body. And I think that's all I know of. Some people say meats, animal products, block them, but again, they don't with me, so you have to figure out what your system can tolerate.
So in alignment with that, Julie is asking if there's any suggestions on what to do beforehand. So sort of piggybacking on what you were talking about, is there anything to prepare you so that you are in a better place even before you meditate? So to be clearer to meditate.
So like this morning, I came in and I was not in a good place, and I meditated and I got in a better place. I came out of it, and then I was like, I'm not there. So I sat down at my computer and I wrote, and I was there. So every day it's different. So I would just say to you, listen to your instincts. My instincts were like, you have to get something off your chest, because if it is here, it's blocking you. And I dumped it out in words on paper. Felt great. Then I went back to my prayer and meditation, and it felt like a very clear, moving, energy stream. So I would say to you, walking, I feel like grounding, getting outside, especially being outdoors, clears our aura, which in turn could better set us up when we go to sit and actually go in and do the work.
Great. I don't know if Elizabeth, you're okay with it, but she
Yeah,
had another
go for it.
aspect of the question, which was, do you have any advice on how to find job or career or place, or what is your bent for you to be doing? So it's just a question on, like, how do I find my soul's path or my career path?
Well, my first instinct is to tell you to ask your higher self. So your higher self does not reside in the physical body because it's too high vibrational frequency. It would implode your body. Like, you can't handle it. But your higher self resides in your spiritual body, in the aura, okay? And you always have access to it. And that's why we pray and meditate. It's to align in and up with God and Source and your higher self and your guides and angels. So why not just propose the question to your higher self? Because your higher self holds the imprint, the soul memory of your potential life script, what you are destined to do. So I would start with that. If you're really blocked and can't do it, then perhaps you go and work with someone who does regression, where they could take you into life between lives, where you can tap into the Akashic records, which would in turn help you remember what you signed up for and what your purpose is.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this one kind of flows with that. Roxana is trying to understand her own relationship with the unseen part of her life a little better. She was asking, how common or uncommon is it to have one's own higher self step forward on a regular basis with guidance, introducing other guides, offering nudges towards like self-care, our daily lives. To her, it feels different than intuition, more
It is.
direct, personal, and conversational. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so your higher self. So your higher self holds all the answers you will ever need. That's when they say go within. They're not saying that doesn't mean go within to your head, right? That just screws us up sometimes more. Sometimes not. But go within to your higher self, which I connect to that in my heart, because your feelings are your truth. They are your guidance. And sometimes you have to separate, some of your baggage from your heart-centered higher self and guidance. But it's they're separate. So intuition is your higher self tapping into psychic energy and getting information past, present, or future, right? So they're separate things. Intuition comes to you through your higher self or through your spirit guides or deceased loved ones who are giving you not intuition but spirit communication. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. And then she had a follow-up on, do you ever, when meditating, ask another living person's higher self to step forward to resolve an issue you might be having with that person?
I love that. So always, Spirit says if you will not be helpful or successful in reaching someone who's in a physical body, a friend, family member, whoever, in this world, pray and connect to their higher self and their higher guides. So it's almost like you're silently blessing them through prayer and meditation. And what you're doing is sending them love and light and praying and asking their higher self and their higher guides to heal them or you or the situation versus physically going to it. Because energetically, that's where it happens first. And then physically, what you'll notice is if out of that blue, that person has a change of heart, or they become kinder, or they out of the blue call you or text you. That's your sign it worked. I do this all the time, and it's amazing the validation you'll get. And then you trust it more, and then you're more likely to do it.
I love that question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's good. So we have Debbie, who's actually from New Zealand, so she's not actually live, but she sent the question in. So she wants to know if she has someone from heaven trying to contact her. She's been feeling it, waking every morning, if she feels like it's around the same time. How does she figure out who it is and why they're trying to get a hold of her? She's not sure if it's somebody she knows.
So it's really common for spirits, guides, and angels to come to you in the middle of the night, especially between the hours of 3 and 6 in the morning. So usually why they do that is because you're probably not making a consistent effort to meditate during the days. And so they rely on that time when your mind is quieted and out of the way. It doesn't really matter who it is, because if you need to know, they're going to reveal themselves. So you might have this just knowing it's a deceased relative, or you might be told, or whatever it is. If you need to know, they're going to tell you. What I believe it is, it's part of your, what I call team spirit. So it's a makeup of your guides, angels, sometimes ascended masters, and your loved ones who have crossed over. And so when you go to bed at night, just pray and ask them to work with you and through you and help you remember whatever it is that's in your highest and best good that you need to know at that time, and then let go and trust that you'll get clear if and when you need to.
Thank you. So Lisa has a question. How do you recommend we recognize when it's time to offer forgiveness or when it's time to exit a relationship? She says a broken heart feels a lot like an intuitive warning, and so how to distinguish between the two feelings?
Well, so the answer is both. You want to offer forgiveness and still look at whether or not you are complete. You may or may not be. So, number one, we are here at the end of the day to learn and grow through relationships and experiences, and a lot of times, unfortunately, that includes challenges and heartbreak. But if you can look at everything and thank it for showing up in your life because it served a lesson and there was a gift in it, then you're more easily able to forgive, right? Because you trust the universe brought it to you, or you created it for, again, spiritual growth. So always, hopefully, in your process, you find that place of forgiveness. And then in terms of trust your instincts. If your heart keeps resisting the relationship or shuts down, or you constantly feel scared or uncomfortable or depressed, that's your guidance to get out. That's about protecting your boundary and honoring that. So I would just say, if that's consistent, then it's time to leave. But at the end of the day, again, take it back to listening to your feelings.
So Nancy's asking a big one. What recent changes have you experienced or seen in the realm of spirit?
What changes have I seen?
Yeah. And
Oh, that's so funny you asked this, because today, for the first time in my history of doing group readings, I saw something I had never seen. So the two sisters come in, and their brother and their mother came through right away. And loud and clear, hour goes by, and I look at them, and I said, do you have a dad who passed away? And they started crying, and they said yes. I said, is he Arnie? And they said yes. I said, he's very quiet. Did he just die? And they said yes, like 7 weeks ago. And I said, okay, I've never seen this before, but there was like confetti of colors. It looked like rainbows, and it was all these different pieces. He was in the process of a life review, and these pieces were different parts of his experience. I didn't know if those pieces that looked like confetti were memories that he was reviewing, or there were aspects of his personality or how he grew, different stages. But it was this beautiful confetti coming down into what I saw an apparition filling up his body. Never seen it before. And so I told them, this is a different way to do a life review, obviously, at least from what I've seen. Maybe other mediums have seen this before. And he explained that he couldn't exert a lot of energy in the group because he was so consumed in healing and doing the life review, but he gave just enough evidence and messages to comfort them and let them know he found his wife, he found his son, and he was so happy and he was so ready to leave this world, which obviously brought them great comfort. So I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's so much going on. I have to be honest, I am not an expert in other worlds. I know there's lots of different dimensions. There's aliens and different planets, and that's not my deal. I know my deal. My deal is working with the spirits who need you to, know they're in a good place, the angels, the spirit guides. So I work with the afterlife is what I'll call it. But there's a lot of changes taking place both in that world and this world as we move more into the ascension. That could be a whole book.
Yeah.
Sorry. What else?
James has a question for you. So he has been practicing each day as a medium, is what I understand in this message. He's been doing it via Messenger for the last year, and then began in circles, and he was able to do it from day one. And he says, what's your advice to move on to Skype readings? He's done some phone readings and got a review. So it's just kind of, what's your advice for moving on and doing readings?
Well, so it's what's your comfort level. I personally don't enjoy Skype. There's a delay. And quite honestly, I enjoy my in-person. I enjoy my phone, but I enjoy them equally. When you're in person, I'm hardly ever looking at you. Because what I'm doing is I'm looking around you, so I don't really need the person there. Skype throws me. I've tried it. It technological stuff. When you work with spirit energy, it messes with stuff. I had phone issues the other day.
Yeah.
So are you comfortable with that? And if you are, great, do it. Ideally, it's what do you want to do and what's most effective. Because at the end of the day, it's about giving a quality reading. And if you're distracted by any earthly devices, that's going to throw off your energy, put you in panic, fear, and shut down your psychic ability.
Great. So we are a little after, but I'm going to ask one more question, and I think this can apply to a couple questions. Mandy's asking, is there any way that I can validate if my dad is still with me? So maybe just talk a little bit about that validation for the signs that come through.
Is there any way you can validate? Well, okay, I'm going to give you an example. So in my group reading today, because it's still fresh in my head, I told one of the sisters I was telling you about that, I can't remember, I think I said it was her dad is going to send you a bee. No, it was her husband. I said he's going to send you a bee, like a bumblebee. And you're going to be sitting outside, and it's not going to sting you, but it's enough to remind you, just be. And in my head, I'm like, thanks, Dad, because my dad sends me bees when I start to get worked up about stuff and I need to relax and just be. So after my group, in between my group and this, I went outside to clear, and the sun really helped shift my energy and clear me. So I'm sitting out there, and guess what? There is a bee, truly, for like 2 minutes all around me. I just laughed. Thanks, Dad. So that was my sign. So what I would say to you is ask your dad or whoever it is you want to get a sign from. And then just either designate that sign or say, what are you going to show me? And the first thing that comes to you. If you see a cardinal, right? Whatever it is, designate or ask and then let go. And then trust in the right timing, and usually it's within a day or so, you're going to get that sign. And don't make it fit, and don't go look for it. Just let the universe work its magic, and it will. And then you'll feel more trusting. And then the more you do it, the more common it gets, which leads me into signs, synchronicity, flow. It's meant to be normal, everyday occurrences. When you're not getting those, it means you're off. It means you're disconnected. And what I would encourage you to do is bring it back to realigning with your intention, to connect with Source, to connect with your team spirit, to take time every day to pray, offer gratitude for everything that is good and right and well, and you'll attract more of that. And to then open to receive and just quiet yourself, be still and know. And then trust that you don't need me and you don't need anyone else or anything else outside of yourself to have that alignment and connection. So thanks for tuning in today. Please, we'll do this again next month. Stay connected with me, RebeccaRosen.com, all my social media, and we will be sure to let you know when we'll be doing Facebook Live again, amongst many other things. And please write in your questions if you have any. As always, thank you. Wishing you brightest blessings and all love.